So Merry Christmas 2021. Many people at the forum have asked for a track plan of this layout that I've been building for a number of years, and I haven't been able to publish one that anybody can understand. So we're going to do a video walk around tour, and I'm going to try to explain some of the thought process behind the track plan and how it ended up where it ended up, and hopefully if you're planning a layout, this will be helpful to you. So what's going on here is we're on the upper main line, and there's only one main line, and it continues through this switch on the diverging route. This switch works in conjunction with this switch, and that becomes the entry to the yard. This is the engine pocket, so that the switching engine, which will classify freight trains and break them down and build them up, can sit back in his engine pocket. Train enters here, continues down this track, which becomes part of the arrival and departure, but more importantly becomes the ladder track for the classification yard. The fourth track is a reverse point siding, which will be shown in the next segment, and it's servicing what will be built here, which will be a scrap iron metal dealer junkyard with a gantry crane, and it comes out from behind here. So we'll do a quick pan down so that you can see where those tracks lead. They make a big sweeping turn. All the radius up here is 48-inch radius 096 track across the double track bridge and down to the yard, which is to my right. The lower level, this is the main two. There's just one large long main on this track, and it's layout, and it's 240 feet in length. So we've made the 90-degree turn, we've crossed the bridge. This is the main line. This is where the arriving and departing train has come down. It's also the ladder track. There's a runaround right here. The purpose of that runaround is twofold. One is to pull cabooses from the caboose track, and also to service a facing point siding down there. That industrial siding going to the cannery train is a facing point siding, so this enables the engine to run around a freight car and go and pull it or set it at that industry down there. And this is the beginning of the classification yard, which we will get to next. Okay, so we're at the beginning of the ladder tracks in the yard. Again, first track is the main, second track is one of two arrival departure tracks, and then there's 6 yard tracks in here. The sixth one going to the icing and cold storage station. There's the caboose track, which we talked about before, and one of the last additions was to actually add a second arrival and departure track, so a train can come into the yard from either direction, or while I'm waiting for one to depart, I can still bring another one in off the main. This track goes out, goes under and behind Atlantic Ice and Cold Storage. It can hold about a 22-car train. And then we'll move on. So we're at the back of the classification yard. Tracks are a little bit short, but obviously trains can be made up of cars on multiple tracks. The second arrival and departure track is going around the very back here. The main is again in the front. This is dropping to the lower level so that there's a shortcut between the classification yard and the interchange, which we'll talk about in a little while. And we pan around this side, and this is the entrance to the engine service terminal. Everything on the railroad, with the exception of 2 locomotives, is steam, not diesel, and we're trying to model in that area of the late 1940s. So, we're now at the entrance to exit from the steam service facility. Just to break up some of the scenery, I decided to run the arrival and departure track underneath this shallow relief mountain. Just didn't want to see too many parallel tracks running side by side, so that is the latest second arrival and departure track. This is that first arrival and departure track. This is the main, and there's two switches entering the steam service facility. The first switch takes any steam engine that will fit on the 104-foot turntable, and the second switch takes the larger articulated locomotives, which will not fit on the turntable. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks in that yard. 3 of them lead to the turntable. One of them is primarily for servicing the sand pit and the coal loader, and the other ones are for storing locomotives that are either leaving or arriving. So here we are. We're going to talk a little bit real quick about the main line. The main line, this is a main line track, this is a main line track, this is a main line track, and this is a main line track. But it's not a double main. It's actually one long loop that's about 240 feet in length. So the train eastbound down the hill comes down here, returns, and then comes back up on this track. So there's a crossover here. That crossover makes it possible for engines to get in and out of the engine service facility. And then there's a diamond down here, which again allows for both change of direction if I need to reverse direction, so I can run the railroad in either direction. The signal system is, the prototype is Baltimore and Ohio color position light, CPL, and there's 11 blocks. And these are detecting occupancy in the blocks. There's 11 blocks eastbound and 11 blocks westbound, and it's protected in both directions. The upper level up here is a coal tipple and mining operation, and there's 2 sidings up here, and that's sort of a kit bash of a number of things. That's a Lionel engine house that's been cut in half. That's a Lionel coaling station. That's a Plasticville coal tipple. And this was something that was scratch built by somebody, and we cobbled it together. And then those are some ON3 scale cars going into the mine shaft back there. So we're just to the right of the diamond crossover that we were talking about. The next 2 switches here are to serve as an interchange track. I got quite a ways into building this layout before I decided it was a really good idea to have an interchange with another railroad. And the reason for 2 of them tracks is mainly for the runaround capability. So this switcher back here can service this siding. I can drop cars off here to go off to another railroad. I can pick cars up. And with 2 sidings and switches at both ends, have the capability for the engine to run around cars and get them from either side. So this was the last part of the expansion, and this was the point at which instead of having the layout stop here, I decided to go into the last room. And as long as I was going down that way, I decided I wanted some long staging tracks for passenger trains. So what we've ended up building here is 4 passenger sidings that all go underneath the new station platform, and they are stub sidings, but they can hold a significant number of cars. This is that back end of that interchange track. These are the second switches that allow an engine to run around a freight car. There's an opposing point industrial siding, and this last track going underneath the station is the interchange track where cars can disappear and be picked up from the adjacent railroad that we're trading freight with. These switches here will be the last switches on the layout. This one will let us get to a small steam engine service facility, which will be down that way, just for steam engines that are hauling passenger trains. And this other leg of this diverging switch will go to a industrial district, which has not yet been built. Again, so this is the single main line. The outside track here becomes the outer track up there. The inner track here becomes the inner track up here. And that's at a 1.5% grade. And that is the siding leading up to the coal mine that we saw in the previous segment. And it's at a 2.5 or 3% grade. We didn't talk much about the lower main. This is the main line on the lower level. The Hudson and the heavyweight Pullmans will pass by here, as well as the next train, and then they're both going to exit from this tunnel over here. And that's how the lower main works. And then the upper is a similar arrangement.